Elon, Friday afternoon, Friday evening, says Matt Taibbi, a reputable, established journalist, got the scoop. I mean, this is like a case of, be careful what you wish for. I'm not even sure I would take the scoop if offered to me, but I don't have that problem. So Matt Taibbi goes, it's 37 threads, 37 plus, because some of the threads have responses to them. And we're going to skim through them. Then we're going to get into the substance of some of them, the legalities of what the consequences are of some of them, and then we're going to go through just a few scum of the earth, blue check mark journalists attacking the messenger and not the message. Scum of the earth. And that's because I'm polite. Matt Taibbi starts off the Twitter files. What you're about to read is the first installment based upon our thousands of internal documents. They're also going to do one on COVID censorship coming up. Twitter files tell an incredible story. The first 15 were a little not wishy-washy. It was a prelude. In early conception, we're at number 5. Twitter more than lived up to its mission statement, giving people the power to create and share ideas, yada, yada, without barriers. Time progressed, however, the company was slowly forced to add those barriers. Some of the first tools for controlling speech were designed to combat the likes of spam, financial fraudsters. Slowly over time, the staff and executives began to find more and more uses for the tools. Outsiders began petitioning the company to manipulate speech as well. First a little, then more, then constantly. By 2020, requests from connected actors to delete tweets were routine. One executive would write to another, more review from the Biden team, more to review from the Biden team. The reply would come back handled. Let's just see what happens here. More to review from the Biden team. What date is that? October 24, 2020. What's happening in October? All right. So the Biden team is contacting Twitter through whatever back channels. They're not making them do anything. And asterisk that in your heads, and we'll come back to that. They're not making them do anything. They're just asking. The potential future president of the United States is asking a company with an 80% plus pro-Democrat, pro-Biden team, chief legal, donated as much as could be donated to individual candidates. Just asking. Nobody's making you do anything. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Celebrities and unknowns alike could be removed or reviewed at the behest of a political party. I grabbed the first one under SI, defer to safety and integrity. The system wasn't balanced. It was based on contacts because Twitter was and is overwhelmingly staffed by people of one political orientation. There were 2 more channels, more ways to complain open to the left. Well, Democrats than the right. Now they're showing some political contributions. I went and looked up Vijay Gad's contributions. She donated as much as possible, from what I understand, to individual candidates. And then she made what I would argue is a massive undisclosed contribution in kind, which arguably, but not so arguably, actually gave the election to Joe Biden. That massive contribution in kind, the decision to suppress the Hunter Biden story. She gave all the money she could, and then she gave a little more. The resulting slant in content moderation decisions is visible in the documents you're about to read. However, it's also the assessment of multiple current and former high-level executives. So we got the October 14th New York Post Biden's secret emails, an expose based on the contents of the Hunter Biden's abandoned laptop. We've seen it. Twitter took the extraordinary steps to suppress the story, removing links and posting warnings that it may be unsafe. I remember I could neither send nor receive a link to that article in my private Twitter DMs. Just a little gift from Vijay God to the Biden campaign. I've given you all the $5,700 max per candidate. How about a $1 billion gift? How much would someone pay for that type of, not advertising, I guess it's suppression of negative advertising. All of it. That decision, which arguably, but not arguably, because something like 79% of people afterwards said they probably would have voted differently had they known about the information in the laptop before Election Day. How much did that decision, how much would someone have paid for that decision? How much would Vijay God have been able to sell that decision for? Had she been able to legally sell it? But you couldn't legally sell it, just gave it away. Then we have some internal conflict. This led to a public executive, Caroline Strom, to send out a polite "what the fudge" query. Several employees noted that there was tension between the communications policy teams, who had little less control over moderation, and the safety and trust teams. Okay. Strom's note returned. The answer to the laptop story had been removed for violating the company's hacked materials policy. Bullshit. Known bullshit at the time. It was a fabricated excuse from a politically weaponized partisan head of legal to give the most wonderful, invaluable campaign contribution and no one would know. It's like there was an episode of The Outer Limits where they're on a spaceship that gets taken over by aliens, and the guy has to make the ultimate sacrifice to blow up the spaceship, save the Earth, but no one's ever going to know that he did it. I am sure in the mind of Vijay God, that was she's saving the Earth, and no one's ever going to know that she did it, except for the people on the inside. I'm saving democracy. And don't worry, people, we're going to get back to that Time article magazine. I'm saving democracy by controlling the flow of information. Hacked materials, bullshit, it wasn't hacked. Disinformation, bullshit, everybody knew that it was accurate. Just a load of people, all connected, all on the same team, lying to each other internally to justify their foregone conclusion, so that from the outside, it has an allure of plausibility, of justification. And it worked on a great many people. I know people, smart, Ivy League educated, who bought into the Russia disinformation, who bought into the hacked stuff, who bought into the, who knows, I heard 50 intelligence people say it's Russia disinformation. That's what they were running in the media. Vijay Gad is probably sitting there thinking, I'm going to save the world, and no one's ever going to know, and I'm going to get one heck of a pat on the back when all this is done. That would be worth $12 billion in image management services she gave Biden from Felis Rufus 35 Tub. It's priceless. Hillary Clinton, what did she spend on her campaign to lose in 2016? It's priceless. Although several sources, right, number 22, recalled hearing about the general warning from federal law enforcement that summer about foreign hack. They remember hearing about a general warning. People are faulting Matt Taibbi or saying Matt Taibbi's leaks don't show the actual concerted, active interaction between FBI, DOJ, and big tech, because it doesn't necessarily, nor does it have to, because that direct back channel, if not confirmed in the Twitter files, has been confirmed elsewhere, and we'll get there. So now you got your dishonest, lying media who ran with the Russian disinformation in the beginning, now saying, nothing in here proves that there was any direct back channel. It says that there was a general warning. General warning as per internal correspondence. Because it's not like the FBI sits down with everybody at Twitter or everybody at Facebook. The FBI only sits down with Zuckerberg to say, hey, nice social media company you got here. Be a shame if something happens to it. We've been hearing a lot of chatter about Russian disinformation, so you might want to act accordingly when that happens. But we didn't make anybody do anything. We just, the FBI sits down with Zuckerberg. The FBI back channel meetings with Twitter, Microsoft, other big tech execs, and we'll get there. But the lying, fake news, blue checkmark, dishonest journalists who are trying to write this off as a non-story, well, they say, nothing in here shows that. It's been shown elsewhere. So put it together. Although several sources recalled hearing about a general warning from federal law enforcement that summer about possible foreign hacks, there's no evidence that I've seen of any government involvement in the laptop story. In fact, that might have been the problem. Now, some people have been making hay of this particular tweet. Although several sources recalled hearing about a general warning from federal law enforcement that summer about possible foreign hacks, so bear the word foreign in mind in interpreting the second part of this. There's no evidence that I've seen of any foreign government involvement in the laptop story. Everyone's saying, well, there's no government involvement in the laptop story, as if to say there was no government involvement in the requests or the pressure or the suggestion, the recommendations to suppress it. That's a lie. That is disingenuous spin of this tweet. We now know definitively, FBI sat down with Zuckerberg and said, watch out, we hear about that Hunter Biden, or we hear about some Russia disinformation stuff. And Zuckerberg read in between the lines and suppressed the Hunter Biden story. We know that federal authorities were meeting with social media. But some people are going to say, look, Matt Taibbi even says government wasn't involved in the laptop story. They mean in the manufacture, in the crafting and the creation of the laptop story, because they were saying, they were getting warnings from law enforcement. There's going to be foreign interference in the election. And people were saying the laptop was a result of Russian disinformation. What Taibbi's saying here is that there's no evidence that he's saying that there was any foreign government involvement in producing, procuring, disseminating the Hunter Biden laptop story. That's what it's saying. Not that the government wasn't involved, because they were. And we have evidence, if not directly here, elsewhere, that the government was directly involved in pressuring social media to suppress the story. Just break that down on item 22. Anybody telling you that this is Matt Taibbi saying there was no government involvement in the Hunter Biden laptop story to suggest there was no government involvement to pressure social media to suppress the story, they're either lying or they don't understand it. The decision was made at the highest levels of the company, but without the knowledge of CEO Jack Dorsey, with former head of legal, policy, and trust Vijay Gad playing a key role. By this point, quote, everyone knew this was fucked, said one former employee, but the response was essentially to err on the side of exactly what they knew they had to do. But the government didn't tell them to do it. They weren't state actors. It wasn't coercion, and it wasn't a government actor. The government just said, nice business you got there. We hear there's some misinformation coming, Vijay. Oh, God. I'm not winking. Silly. I got something in my eye. Former VP Global Comms Brandon Borman asks, can we truthfully claim that this is part of the policy? Brandon Borman, new. To Ian's point, can we truthfully claim that this is part of the policy, i.e. as part of our approach to addressing potentially hacked materials, we are limiting visibility of related stories on Twitter while our investigation is ongoing. Oh, by the way, you want to talk about potentially hacked versus actually hacked? They didn't suspend the New York Times Trump tax story, which was based on stolen material. In one humorous exchange on day one, Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna reaches out to Gad to gently suggest she hop on the phone to talk about the backlash re-speech. Khanna was the only Democratic official I could find in the files who expressed concern. I'm not sure what concern Taibbi sees here, but it doesn't matter. Oh, and by the way, never in writing, always in cash. Can we hop on the phone? Got something to talk to you about. I don't want it to show up in a Twitter doc dump on the internet one day. Generating huge backlash on Hill. Re-speech. Happy to chat if you're up for it. Gad replies quickly, immediately diving into the weeds of the Twitter policy. Unaware, Khanna is more worried about the Bill of Rights. Hi, Congressman Khanna. This is from Vijaya. Thank you for reaching out, and we appreciate the heads up. We put out a clarifying thread of tweets earlier this evening to explain our policy around the posting of private information and linking directly to hacked materials. The press secretary's account was not permanently suspended. We requested that she delete the tweet containing material that is in violation of our rules, and her account is restricted until she complies. Oh, they locked the press secretary out of her account. I'd be happy to jump on the phone if helpful. Don't want to say any more online. I've written a self-serving bullshit message to you that self-serves in that, oh yes, it's just hacked policy. Happy to talk to you on the phone. My team in DC are copied here, available to discuss. Yeah. 34, Net Choice lets Twitter know about a bloodbath awaits in upcoming Hill hearings when members say it's a tipping point complaining tech has grown so big that they can't even regulate themselves, so government may need to intervene. Reports to Twitter that some Hill figures are characterizing the laptop story as text access Hollywood moments. Not sure what that means. Twitter files continued. The First Amendment isn't absolute. By the way, just remember, for all the people saying it's not a First Amendment issue anyhow, they're not even saying that internally. Sabo's letter contains chilling passages relaying Democratic lawmakers' attitudes. They want more moderation. And as for the Bill of Rights, it's not absolute. The Democrats, meanwhile, complained that the companies are inept. They let conservatives muddy the water and make the Biden campaign look corrupt, even though Biden is innocent. They linked this to Hillary Clinton's email scandal. She did nothing wrong, but because the press wouldn't let the story go, because the press wouldn't shut up, they learned their lesson this time. It became a scandal far out of proportion. In their mind, social media is doing the same thing. It doesn't moderate enough harmful content. So when it does, like it did yesterday, it becomes a story. If the companies moderate more, conservatives wouldn't even think to use social media for disinformation, misinformation, or otherwise. Except the Hunter Biden laptop story was accurate, real information. The only disinformation and misinformation you hear is how the Democrats weaponized the censorship process at Twitter to get them to take down a story that was, what was it? Making the Biden campaign look corrupt. The Democrats were in agreement. Social media needs to moderate more because they're corrupting democracy and making all, quote, truth, end quote, especially the real truth, relative. When pushed on how the government might insist on that, consistent with the First Amendment, they demurred. The First Amendment isn't absolute. So that is the Taibbi thread for anybody who missed it. It is over the top, in your face. They're lying to you. It's manufacturing consent, like Noam Chomsky's book once wrote about, on steroids. The First Amendment's not absolute. The Second Amendment's not absolute. That little thing you call the Constitution, not absolute. You know what's absolute? The power to suppress, to manipulate, to impact and interfere with elections. Hey, by the way, everything they were accusing Russia of potentially doing, Twitter did. Twitter didn't make up fake news to interfere with an election. They suppressed real news to interfere with an election. They suppressed real news at the behest of politically motivated, politically interested politicians and a weaponized intelligence agency of the government. Let me read the Rumble rants before I lose them. And I screen grabbed a bunch, but I guess I might not have enough to read through tomorrow. $5 Rumble rant from Costello1. Don't yada yada us folks who are still permanently banned. Sorry, I hope I didn't yada yada too much of it. So that's the Twitter files. Anybody telling you it's not a bombshell is a liar, or they don't understand the degree to which it's a bombshell. It's a flipping bombshell. It confirms that at the time, the people telling you that it was Russia disinformation, members of intelligence suggesting it has all the hallmarks of a Russia information operation, were lying to you. Intelligence was lying to you. Government entities, government actors were engaging with and pressuring arguably social media monopolies, but if they're not monopolies, they are damn well public square utility type entities, pressuring them to suppress a story, publicly suggesting that it's Russia disinformation, but the rationale didn't even make any sense. They say it's Russia disinformation, but then ban it because on the basis that it was accessing hacked materials, which would mean necessarily that it was authentic and legitimate. If it's Russia disinformation, it can't be the fruits of the hacked material because the material's not real because it's disinformation. So they're lying to you 2 weeks before an election to impact the election, and it works.